Views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but we're the ones that have encouraged you all along to like and share them on social media and with all your friends and neighbors. Nutrition World in downtown Fort Pierce now presents at this time Joanne's World of Nutrition with Joanne Seeger.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I hope everyone's having an amazing morning. Well, I am on a fast, and my husband and I do fast quite often to kind of challenge ourselves and also to be able to tell other people what the experience was like. So we are embarking on the second day of fat fasting.
Ooh.
Yes. So, and some of my family members like, oh, you don't eat fat? I'm like, no, that's the only thing we do. And it's only for 2 days.
I like to fast once in a while, but I do it slow.
But let me tell you, I've done many fasts where I'm ready to like bite the heads off my kids and I'm ready to like throw a Swiffer through the wall. But I feel amazing, super alert and sharp and fantastic. And I already feel like a little of my inflammation is going down. So if anyone's interested in this little journey we're kind of doing to ourselves, just give us a call and we'll share our experience. Well, one of my favorite guests. Well, Dr. Robbie can never get here on Wednesday. So I'm going to say my favorite guest is here with us this morning.
Ooh.
Bert Goulding Jr. Good morning, Bert. How are you this morning?
Doing great. How are you?
Very, very good. I always appreciate you getting up real early California time for us. Very grateful. Are you ready to do some breath work?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. All right, so if I have any newbies, welcome to the show. Super simple, but very, very effective. Don't overthink it. Let's exhale out anything that doesn't feel right. And we're going to inhale through our nose for 5. And then we're going to exhale for 5. So I'm tricking the audience, Bert. Every other week, I keep changing it, so they don't get bored.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, I try to do that heart math breath work. So that's what we're going to try this morning. So it's supposed to be 5.5 seconds in through the nose, 5.5 out, a nice circular breath. Let's get
So
our
we don't
focus
pause.
sharp. No pause. It just like kind of like close your eyes and kind of vision this beautiful circular breath through your nose, out through your nose. Really keep your shoulders dropped, your neck relaxed. And this is incredible. To go with the heart rhythm to really calm down the blood pressure, the parasympathetic system. All right, Bert, you ready? All right, here we go.
Everybody let everything out.
Let it all out.
Now inward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down, out. 4, 3, 2, 1. In again. 2, 3, 4, 5. And release. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you very much.
That's
So,
odd.
so
I started
listeners, keep going, okay? If you do this the entire show, you'll actually remember more, have a better clarity at the end. Your blood pressure might regulate a little bit better. So give that a try. It's available to all and free, no expense at all.
I saw somebody come in and pass
So-
you a note.
Oh, yeah.
Sarcasm.
So, of course, the owner of the station, Bert, is just full of jokes. And this morning, as I mentioned the fat fasting, he put a note about, hey, Doritos.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what he does on his days off.
Yeah.
He
And
goes
and
he
I always
watches
tell my
tree
kids there's
huggers.
5 things that I draw the line that you're never allowed to consume or bring into the home, and Doritos is one of them. So it's kind of funny that he picked that. So no temptation, Greg. I would vomit before I ate these things.
I'll stick with
Okay.
pork.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, I'm still, you're getting me nauseous on these. All right. So Bert Goulding Jr., a frequent guest here on the show. And I just lost my headset, but I can keep talking until you figure it out. Yep, jiggling it. All right. So I'll keep talking because I can't hear anyone, but they can hear me. So he is the CEO of there you go, Positive Power Nutrition. I have his products at my store. I love them. I use them personally. I would say my entire family uses them. And some of my pets do too. So I trust him. I trust his words. I'm going to let him do a brief history just in case we have any new listeners so they can see his wealth of experience. So it might be time to get some pen and paper out to take some notes. All right, Bert, let our listeners know a little bit about your background. Not too much time though, because we have so much info to cover.
Uh, yes, to sum it up, I've been working as a clinical nutritionist for about 18 years. And during that time, I've had the opportunity to work with about 5,000 doctors, patients, and nutritional clients. And I work with a special computer system called a biomeridian, and basically have discovered that each person is unique. It takes something different for everyone. After I finished my graduate work in nutrition, I found out in practice in about the first 4 or 5 months that almost everything that I'd learned as far as book learning didn't work in the real world with real people. But that's okay, because I did find a way to do it. We did it for our family. We've done it for others. I'm just excited to be on the show with you. You're just my favorite radio show.
Oh, thank you, Bert. And it's funny, I tell people that too, that when I went to school in Boston, there's nothing I learned that I apply today. Like, I feel like it actually gave me that other side of the coin, what not to reference.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
not the calorie is a calorie, just, put the food groups together, like no, no, and more no. All right, everyone. Well, I hope my show always kind of just plants seeds. We are definitely not the ultimate authority. I hope all my listeners know who is, but really it's just a little seed. And then even if you make a tiny little change, see, like Bert mentioned, we're all different. Our lifestyles are different, our environments are different, our upbringing is different. See what maybe you can take away from each show. And if you just give it a try for 30 days and then see if it works for you, because natural, holistic, all these things are meant to work with you. They're not like a pharmaceutical that's so aggressive. It's just gentle, and it just really helps heal you throughout the time. And some people will tell me, Joanne, this is really working. Wow, I really feel better. So when do I stop? And I'm like, well, why would you stop? Keep going. Your body will let you know when it's time to maybe shift a little. So Bert, we had a question at the store, and Matt loves reciting one of the things you said on the radio show. So I'm gonna just ask this one to start. Okay. Now, you are famous for your cell power and your super silica. And so we sell lots of it. We have it right at the register. So a customer said to Matt, well, I drink alkaline water every day, so I don't need to buy the cell power. So can you answer, because Matt wanted a refresher of the statement he should say after that sentence. So can you start the show with that comment?
Yes. If you using alkaline water can help temporarily, and that's one of the things that we've seen is it will actually the effect lasts for about 48 hours. So what I did when I was getting my own pH in my body balanced using cell power and water is I made sure that I tested it 72 hours after not taking it to make sure that it wasn't just a temporary effect. So I don't know if that's what Matt remembers me saying, but it's a very temporary effect. It can be great in an emergency situation. It turns out they have alkalizing water machines in all of the emergency rooms and all the hospitals in the nation of Japan. Because when a person comes in, you only have a little bit of time in the ER with trauma to try to get a person balanced if they need to, and they know how to do that. But you would never put cell power drops or super silica drops into alkalized water, because then you neutralize the effects of both. It's like they're approaching the problem from two different directions. It's like a head-on collision.
Okay.
So you always want to use cell power drops and the super silica drops in purified or distilled water, or whatever the cleanest. I tell people, don't stress out. Take a deep breath. Don't stress out over the fact that you can't get the perfect filtered clear water or whatever it is. Just get the best water you can do and drink plenty of water. you know,
Okay, so I think the question was more on should they spend their budget on buying a bottle of cell power or buying alkaline water each day? So what
oh
is your
yeah,
opinion with
oh
that
yeah,
one?
yeah. Well, the
But I
bottle
love
of
the other stuff. Yeah.
well, the bottle of cell power can help you get balanced for life. 1 2 ounce bottle is all it really takes at 6 servings a day, 4 drops in a serving, 16 ounces of purified water in each serving. By the time you've gone through a 2 ounce bottle, your body can be pH balanced for the rest of your life. The problem with drinking alkaline water, if you go past a couple of months, is it can really throw your body out of balance tremendously. If you're too alkaline, the only way that the body has to try to remedy that situation is by dissolving muscle tissue and vital organ tissue to release the amino acids that make up the proteins that are that protein part of your body. So if people are finding extreme muscle weakness or unexplained vomiting or diarrhea or whatever it means, they've over-alkalized themselves, which is really easy to do by doing the alkalized water. With cell power, it's not pushing you any direction. It helps you get balanced whether you're too alkaline or too acidic. It's much better value. I mean, I've seen both. I've worked with thousands of patients that have done both, and I haven't found one person that's done better on the alkalized water.
Right. That makes sense. And in my common sense, you mentioned one show that the stomach is supposed to be acid for digestion. So I was kind of like thinking, and I think you mentioned if you keep drinking the alkaline water, you're kind of going against how the digestive system begins, and not to ruin that system.
Yeah, you'll eventually exhaust the all of the acid forming capabilities of the stomach. You'll exhaust the stomach and all of the associated organs. So yeah, you don't want to. You definitely don't want to do that. Also, it's the same goes for people that say, "Oh, well, I've heard it's a great thing that to get pH balanced is to take and put baking soda in the water and mix it up and drink it." All you're doing is destroying your digestive capabilities. It's not going to help you alkalize because your body reacts to whatever you have. If you push it towards alkalinity, it pushes back with more acidity. So the more that people try to get pH balance and get in the alkaline range by forcing it, the less balanced they become.
Right. That makes sense to me. And as well in that thinking, I've noticed recently, and again, with the kids and their choices of beverages, especially, my son now working a far distance, he keeps stopping at these gas stations way too often for a beverage to perk him up. And they're all really disguising these energy drinks as health drinks, and oh, with pomegranate or extra vitamin C. And I know I love how you cover this, and if you could spend a couple minutes, because I am really hoping that grandparents, parents that might be listening, or maybe adults using these drinks can kind of just keep spreading the word that these things are not what they appear.
Well, yeah, what helps, I think, if people realize that the first of these so-called energy drinks, which I call fake energy drinks, the very first one of them was designed by a pharmaceutical company out of Singapore. And what they did is they found that you can basically use what knowledge you get about the human body to hijack the human body's things. I mean, any energy that you feel, the burst of energy, if it's not coming from the adrenal glands, it's coming from brain fluid. So what they did is they found out that if you take taurine, which is amino acid, put it together with caffeine and with sugar, and what it'll do is it'll cause the body to release 1 drop of brain down through the spinal column and into the body. It gives us huge burst of energy. But what are you using up in order to get that burst of energy? Eventually, there won't be more drops of brain fluid to do. You'll end up, people used to say, oh, he's such an airhead or she's such an airhead. It literally means that you don't have enough brain fluid to support the brain, which is supposed to be floating in water inside of the cranium, inside the skull. So eventually, if the brain starts sitting on the bottom of the skull with no brain fluid or no water there to support it, then you're going to have massive migraine headaches. There's going to be no way to get over it. So those kind of fake energy drinks are so damaging, because once you start getting rid of the brain fluid, it leads to early Alzheimer's. It's been now about maybe 25 years since high school students that would skip breakfast at home, and just before they go to high school, they get one of those fake energy drinks and feel like, oh yeah, it gives me this burst. And then of course, they've exhausted their body, and a couple hours later they go, I need another one. So they take one out of their backpack and they have another one. They keep doing this. And it basically will put the brain in a situation that by age 25 to 30, they'll actually have early onset Alzheimer's.
That is pretty scary, Bert.
Yeah, parents need to know that you can't just let them do this. Like, oh, well, if they sell it in the United States, it must be safe. Oh man, that's.
Oh, we could have a 7-hour show on that topic.
But
it's on the shelf. I mean, it's at Wawa. It must be okay.
Oh, I know. It's I when you were talking about the chips that you have on your list of 5 things you can't bring into the house, I just keep telling people it's loaded with monosodium glutamate, which is a neurotoxin. Okay, let me break that down. Neuro means nervous system, especially the central nervous system like the brain. Toxin means poison. You're poisoning your brain with every bite of those things. So, I mean.
Right. And Bert, I want to tell you, there's a new customer that I spent some time with. Very smart young lady, okay, has a job in the fitness industry, but she was using one of the drinks, and that's what led me to bringing this up, because I looked at the label. I didn't recognize the name, but it was totally looked healthy. Like it was like, I think purple with green vines going through it, nature infused. What an incredible label. I mean, if I really didn't have the skill to look at actual ingredients, I would have been like, wow, this is really good. She was drinking 7 a day, ended up in the emergency room.
Yeah.
And some people really, have to understand that just because it's a liquid, it can have just as a devastating effect as, something solid, the kidneys and the liver, your major defense for the human body. So Bert, it's kind of funny that you're mentioning all these neuro things, because I've had many clients and customers come in the last few weeks, and I remember the last show I had you on, I think it was just a little over a month ago, about a lot of neuropathy, a lot of tingling of that issue. But now it's a lot of, I'm hearing not only the Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's dementia, but Parkinson's and MS, in like way more than my career has ever seen. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because what ultimately leads to Parkinson's is mercury poisoning. And when you have so much mercury in your body that it breaks down the protective sheath that covers the nerve. So once you lose the myelin coating on the nerves, then they short circuit, because the inside of your body is completely filled with liquid. Okay, a small percentage of that is blood, but if you accidentally stab your hand or your finger or something, and you say, oh, I'm bleeding, yeah, you've got some blood coming out, but it's mostly clear fluid that mixes with it. If it was just straight blood, it looks completely different. I mean, if you've had that blood taken, you can see the blood doesn't look the same as what comes out of your body if you accidentally puncture it. So what happens is that with all of those fluids inside, it's like a swimming pool, and the nerves are like electrical cords. So picture that you're going to go trim the hedges, and you've got this orange electrical cord plugged into the outlet on the house, and you're dragging across the yard, and it drags into the swimming pool. What happens to that swimming pool?
Gets electrified?
Yeah, it gets electrified. So for the inside of your body, think of somebody with Parkinson's tremors. What they're doing is they're basically like they're plugged into the socket. Okay, it's coming from their own their own electricity. So you've got a myelin sheath, which is like that orange coating that goes over the, you've got several layers of coating on an electrical cord to keep that electricity inside. So with your nerves, the mercury breaks down the myelin sheath and also blocks an enzyme that would allow your body to rebuild the myelin sheath. So if somebody can get completely detoxed from mercury in the pre-Parkinson stage or the early stages of Parkinson's, while the body still has a chance to fix it and recoat the nerves, it will recoat. It also takes quite a bit of biotin. So the first thing I typically will do if somebody has pre-Parkinson's tremors is that I will suggest to them or recommend to them that they do magnesium potassium aspartate. There are several good brands, but it's like the least expensive way to deal with muscle cramps and Charlie horses and all those other things. But as you take 3 tablets, one morning, one noon, and one night, and you do that for 2 weeks, if the pre-Parkinson's tremors start to disappear and go away, then that's all you needed, is to make sure that you have enough magnesium, potassium with that aspartic acid, amino acid tied to it. If
Thank
that
you for
doesn't,
that tip, because I usually do like higher amounts of potassium than magnesium. I normally powders, but I like that. And I do sell one that would make it a lot more convenient for them, a lot more convenient. Bert, so with the Parkinson's, you mentioned mercury. I've also had them, I try to have them detox actually using your super silica from the aluminum as well. One of my other mentors, so I absolutely love you, but I also have another mentor, Dr. Berg, and he had a video on years ago, like at least maybe 14 years ago, on using silica to detox from aluminum. And I mean, who makes the best silica product? You, super silica liquid. So have you had any clinical experience with that?
yes, and there are other people that have used it a lot more than I have, because that's their specialty, their focus. But for someone that has gone through an aluminum and heavy metal and mercury detox and completely gets over Alzheimer's, because there is a way to reverse Alzheimer's completely. To take a person that doesn't know their own name or doesn't know their family members' names and get them completely back to healthy, normal in 7 months' time. And it's even possible, if you spend a lot of time with that family member and you're willing to really dedicate most of your waking hours, you can get them completely better in about 3 months. But then in order to keep them from falling back in, is that silica not only helps the body push the aluminum out of the body, but it also blocks it from coming back in. So as long as you keep your silica levels high, you can keep it from happening the second time.
All right, so we are going to take a short break, Bert, but when we come back, we're going to really start again with super silica, its uses, and how with all these neurodegenerative, I can't even say the word, and we'll talk about all of it, okay? Be right back, everybody.
We now return to Joanne's World of Nutrition with our special guest, Bert Goulding. Once again, here's your host, Joanne Seeger.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. My guest today is Bert Goulding Jr. with Positive Power Nutrition, clinical nutritionist, a wealth of knowledge. I'm going to ask some specifics right now. So if you caught the last 2 minutes right before we went to break, he said some really impactful statements. And so if that caught your attention, definitely get your pen and paper out, and we're going to kind of simplify it for you, because like as Bert and I always discuss on the show, healing is something that as long as you give your body the tools, it can heal, but you have to get out of the way, right, Bert?
That is correct.
You have to get out of the way and let your body do what it's meant to do. Yeah, we get in the way a lot. We really do. So you said some really big things right before we went on break, about Alzheimer's. So I love that about you. You're not nervous about who's scanning the words and what claims you're making. I just love it. But so we were talking about like Alzheimer's and dementia and Parkinson's, and we were talking about mercury toxicity and aluminum toxicity. Now, to me, all heavy metals are toxic, or if they're misused. Like I have a good friend, he's a jeweler. He's been working with some serious metals since he was like 14 years old, now almost 60. He's getting concerned, so I have him on a heavy metal detox program. So let's start with Parkinson's, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay. So with Parkinson's, may I ask, as a clinical nutritionist, what nutrition program? I have my thoughts, and it's okay if you don't agree with me, but what would your protocol for nutrition be for someone that has early stage of Parkinson's?
Well, avoid all the junk and all the chemicals and all the MSG and all that garbage. I mean, you have to, because all of those things.
So the American food supply.
Well, yes, seriously. I mean, yeah,
I
it's
know.
tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to go shopping anywhere. I mean, I have some of the places where I've only been buying clean food, which is extremely expensive. Think of spending double or triple what poison food is. Junk food is not just the typical junk food and the chips and the sodas, soda pop and things like that. Junk food now is everything is just loaded with heavy metals. For example, when people talk about how bad sugar is, yes, clean sugar that's just sugar is bad for you, but that's not what you get. If you buy a 5-pound bag of sugar, it's now got so much heavy metals in it, because it'll say right on the box of everything from breakfast cereal to everything else. On the bottom, it says sold by weight, not by volume. So don't open it up and say, oh, well, this thing isn't full. What's wrong? It weighs what it's supposed to weigh. So what weighs more than anything else? Heavy metals. What do? They actually get it for free from people that are trying to get rid of it, and they mix it in with processed foods. They mix it in with sugar, table sugar, so that the bag is now just a little hand-sized bag for 5 pounds. And I've been alive long enough to know that it used to be a pretty big size bag. So when you've got those kinds of things, and heavy metals are just terrible. I think we've talked about this before, but
With
one
the
that
baby food, we mentioned the baby food. Yeah.
oh yeah, but for out of all the heavy metals, the one that adults and adolescents have the most of in the United States is cadmium.
Yes.
Now,
Yep.
yeah, cadmium, the average adult or teenager has 15 to 16 pounds of cadmium in their body. The only safe level is 0 milligrams. Okay, so 0, that's it. And yet cadmium will stay in your body if you're low on zinc, low on silver, and most people are really, really, really low on those two things. So whenever you're low on a good mineral, it allows the bad minerals to come in and take up residence there, and just stay there.
And Bert, am I correct in saying the cadmium is super strong in like soy products, like all these fake meats, processed foods as a filler. The soy is in there with high levels of cadmium.
Yes, and they would like to say if somebody tests it and says, "Oh no, it has all this cadmium." Oh no, that's just from growing it. It's just in the ground. No, it's added on purpose. You know, the trucks that sneak in the middle of the night and bring in the cadmium because they have no place to dump it. You know, because it's so toxic. You know, it's the same thing with fluoride. Talk about a 7-hour show we could do is that if you have no legal place to dump extremely poisonous things, then what you do is you put them into food for people in the United States, and that's how you get rid of it. So you know,
Yeah, I
cadmium is
watched a quick clip on aluminum and how they spread that byproduct waste after the production of aluminum. And oh, that was heartbreaking. I mean, I know all these things do have their effect on the environment, and I'm definitely not really well schooled on environmental issues, but heartbreaking. Like, when you see, people that live in the area with their skin breaking down and getting super sick. But it's hidden in our food. And so, like you said, keep it as clean as possible.
well, it's interesting. You just said with their skin breaking down, it's like, oh, it's the whole science thing about aluminum is that aluminum tries to push silica out of the body, and that's what holds our skin together. And silica will also push out aluminum. So it's like two sumo wrestlers, so to speak, going on in your body is that whoever's the biggest quantity is what's able to push out the rest. That's why if we're exposed to a small amount of aluminum, it doesn't really do any damage until it starts getting the upper hand. So we've got to make sure we have plenty of silica. And when maybe I've talked about this before, but I've gone all over the United States doing live seminars, and I ended up several times in southwestern Ohio, right there in the farms where it's just all farmland. And there was a health food store there with 60-mile radius of it just farmland. As I talked to one of the organic farmers there, he goes, yeah, he says, he brought up the subject of silica. He goes, yeah, we really should be adding silica back into our fields before we grow our crops every year. He says, the farmers, nobody's doing it here in the area, and they haven't done it for maybe 10 years. And he says it has nothing to do with it's too expensive, because it's not. It's just the fact that you forget and you start planting your crops and you go, oh, it's too late. I planned my crops this year. I'll do it next time. It's like they don't have a really good alarm on their phone or really good something to remind them. So they have none. It's river silt, which is all this silica that they would go and spread out over the field and then plow it into the field. Because without silica in the foods that we're eating, then really the only solution is to use a supplement like super silica, because you're not getting it in sufficient quantities. First of all, people are avoiding eating wheat. The rest of the world is buying all of our wheat, but here we're scared to eat wheat anymore. And wheat has lots of silica. So do baked potatoes. The highest amount of silica percentage-wise in any food is brown rice. I think we've talked about that before.
Yep.
But if you have brown rice once a week, I'm sorry, that's not enough, because your body uses silica to protect you from the poisons that are in a polluted world. So it's not that we need as much silica as our parents or grandparents did. We need maybe 2, 3, 4 times as much silica per day as our recent ancestors.
That makes sense. And the super silica that we're discussing right now is very affordable. It's just this simple liquid bottle that you put about 12 drops in, a large glass of water. I have my favorite glass in the morning that it's like one of those nice big glasses. I think it's meant for red wine, but I choose silica instead. At least the new version of me. And yeah, and I know sometimes I do try to get a few servings a day, and there are a lot of customers that are really better at their routines than I am. I do 4 servings a day. But for this subject, can you impart some wisdom on if it should be a higher dose? So if there is early stage Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, would you consider more doses of the super silica?
Yes, but don't let that stop you. I have people that say, oh, since I can't do 6 or 7 servings of silica, I just can't do that. And then they end up doing nothing. I mean, just do the best you can. I keep saying that over again. People are like, what do you mean? Tell me how much you take. And I said, the very best you can. If it's 4 servings a day, that's great. If it's 2 servings, it'll just take longer. If
Well, I
it
love
takes,
that. Yeah. It's
if,
like,
if
don't go to the gym because I can't go all week. So
oh, no, and it's really true. I mean, for me to get started back on exercising, I had to basically say, I'm gonna get dressed in my my running clothes, and I'm gonna go out and I'm going to walk or jog or whatever around my block in my neighborhood. And by the time I've done, and if I've done that, and then I don't want to do anymore, I can come in. But almost every single time, by the time I get one time around the block, I go, oh, I can go further. Before I know
right.
it, oh, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20. But you got to start somewhere. So you've got to give yourself that easy out that as long as I do 1 serving of super silica a day, that's great. And then they say, oh, it has a very pleasant taste. So it actually makes the water taste better.
It
Then
does.
they end up
I
doing,
agree.
they do 2 servings a day, right? And it keeps going. There is no upper limit. For an ophthalmologist that called in, I got a chance to talk to, for somebody with glaucoma, he went up to a person doing 15 servings of super silica a day. Now,
Wow.
what that means is that the person was drinking almost 2 gallons of purified water. They started from the time they woke up, and they didn't do that forever, but in 5 weeks, he was able to naturally bring down all of the high glaucoma pressure from, emergency surgery pressure up at 26 or 27. He's able to bring it down into the manageable range at 19. But there's not an upper limit. Technically, there is now, because it was driving the National Institute of Health at NIH.gov. It was driving them kind of crazy that out of all of the minerals and all of the vitamins, the only one that didn't have an upper safe limit was silica. So I guess they gave somebody a $500,000 grant to try to determine what that upper level is. And so they found one. As the higher they went, the higher they went. Basically, what they're saying is that if you took as much silica a day as 11,000 bottles of super silica, 4
Oh
ounce
my
bottles
gosh.
per day, every day, that would be too much. So don't do that.
Yeah, well, there wouldn't be much money left for anything else if you're buying 11,000 bottles.
A day. So
Maybe,
it means
maybe
your body
traveling the
can,
world. Yeah.
yeah, your body can do that. Now that doesn't mean you have unlimited upper limits on other things, because you don't. I mean, I remember one time I was thinking, oh well, I really want to get zinc back into my body, and I was reading a doctor's how he did it, kind of an not ancient, but maybe back in the 1930s, 1940s. And I had done the math, and they were talking about it differently back then, and so I ended up taking too much zinc, and you don't want to do that.
Right. I'm still very sensitive with zinc. Like even a small dose, it's like I get nauseous. Even like really good quality, I don't do well with zinc, but I try
Wait,
to
no,
put the right amount in.
and part of it could be that the zinc pushes cadmium out of where it's hiding back into the bloodstream. And so when you're saying nauseous, you could be getting what feels like cadmium poisoning because it's trying to get it out of your body, out of your system. Now, again, start really low. If you're saying, oh, I can't even take 1 capsule of zinc, well, then maybe, open it up and do a half a capsule. But eventually, it's just like we were talking about before about the super circulation, and about, you're going to feel that niacin flush, but eventually it'll get less and less and less. I mean, I got to the point where I was doing 8 capsules a day of the super circulation and no niacin flush, 8 capsules a day every day. But it started out that 1 was causing a tremendous niacin flush in my body. So your body you have to start slowly, because we are walking garbage dumps. Every person in the United States, I don't care who they are, and they say, I eat so clean. I'm telling you, just being alive in the world today, not just the US, but just being alive, you end up being so filled with poison because all the things are not legally allowed to put in the garbage dump, they put into our food supply, and then it's in us. And did you know that when a person dies and they go to put the casket in the ground, do you know what they have to do?
Oh gosh, what?
They have to seal the casket in concrete. Do you know why? Because the poisons that come out of the bodies that decomposes would go into the water table and poison all the water. We are so filled with poison.
God, that's
that
terrible.
this sounds terrible, right? But when a mortician at the mortuary goes to cut in, they have to have breathing apparatus on. When they go to cut in to do an autopsy or what on the person, or just prepare them the way they do with embalming, what comes out is a little river of silver going down the side of the body. You know what that is?
No.
Mercury
Oh.
comes out of us just like you had broken an old time thermometer. We're so filled with mercury. We have 3.5 pounds of mercury for the average person. And once the body loses its temperature and starts to go cold, we just are so filled with poisons. I was so shocked. I had gone up to a funeral for my wife's mother a few years ago. She was being buried next to her husband in a military cemetery, and they went and wrapped plastic around the coffin and sealed it off, and they had all this hazmat. They were in the yellow hazmat things to go and bury a person, because we are absolutely filled with poisons. Now, I don't want people to lose hope when I'm saying this. I'm just saying you have to focus on it. You have to say, well, drinking a gallon of purified water, that's too hard. No, not if you want to try to get clean and flush your body. You know, minerals, all the super minerals, it's selenium that blocks arsenic. Okay, it's zinc and silver that block cadmium, and it pushes it out and blocks it. It's silica that blocks aluminum completely and does a lot to block lead, meaning first push the lead out of your body. And then, you know, that phrase, get the lead out, when you're out there trying to run or something. And we, you know, think that's a funny phrase, is that
Right.
we have so much lead in our body that when people are stepping on their bathroom scale to try to see how they're doing weight-wise, a lot of times the weight is a lot higher than the size of their body, because heavy metals just don't take up much space. 1 pound of mercury is a tablespoon. A tablespoon of mercury weighs a pound,
Wow.
because
I
it's
never
on the
knew
chart.
that, Bert.
It's on the chart way down next to gold. I mean, it's just about as heavy as gold is, almost exactly the same.
That's kind of scary, but like you said, nature has it figured out. So like our previous statement, if we get out of the way, you know, and do these simple things, some things are in our control, some things are not, right? So drinking the water, taking the super silica, affordable, easy, you can carry it with you to work or wherever you go. It's safe for the whole family to drink. Um, Absolutely incredible. And the other thing that I want to mention too, with the cell power, there are many customers that love them both. Okay. And with the cell power, I have the brochures right in the front with it. And it's like, oh, oxygenation and cells needed and all that good stuff. So I definitely want you to cover more. But like, they are confused when to take each one and which one should they favor. And because they're only drinking so much water, even though they're trying hard, you know, they are at a limit with what their water intake is.
It's whatever system works so that you remember to do it. You know, for some people, it's every other glass. You know, they say, okay, the first glass in the morning is cell power, only 4 drops and 16 ounces. My next 16-ounce glass of purified water will have 12 drops of super silica. For others, they're like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't remember what I had last time, and they lose track and then they don't do anything. So for some people, it's like, it's easy. If it's in the morning before lunch, I'm cell power. If it's in the afternoon, it's super silica. Some will do every other day, but that's if they're looking and saying, okay, is today an odd day of the month? It's cell power. If it's an even day of the month, it's super silica. You know, if any of those sound too difficult, that's not the one for you, because you want to do, you know, if you want to get both in, that's what you need to do. That way, even if you feel like you can't drink that much water, even if you feel like you don't want to get rid of all of the poisons that are in your body, and so you choose to drink less water because you want to hold on to those poisons, even if you get to that point, you're still, if you're doing every other one or saying morning versus afternoon, so there's a way to do them both. Now, I tell people that normally you would start with focusing on just cell power, and that's for the pH balance, which again only takes 4 to 10 weeks to get completely pH balanced. If you follow the protocol that's in the $2 guide saying, are you ready for the truth on pH balance? It's the best-selling guide. I guess I always have to give it a plug. 1.7 million copies. So it's sold more than almost all other pH books combined. It's only 4 pages to read, but it's 1,000 pages of information squeezed into there, including a protocol that works with 99.99% of the people just by reading and following it. Now, when you get pH balance, now if you have severe silica deficiencies, then you probably ought to focus on silica. Maybe take silica all day, every day, until you've dealt with things like so-called autoimmune disorders or fibroid tumors or vision problems. You know, complete exhaustion. If a person is completely, totally exhausted where they can only get out of bed for like an hour a day, that's rare. But maybe you see people that are kind of that way, but they pretend that they don't. They get up, they get dressed, and then they sit on the couch all day and don't do anything else. But if you're totally exhausted, a lot of times that's a silica deficiency. MS, you mentioned that earlier today in the program. For multiple sclerosis, it's a severe silica deficiency tied in with a heavy metal overload. So I've seen people that have severe MS, to the point where they couldn't even lift their feet off of the floor when they were walking. They kind of shuffle across the floor. They were ordering a wheelchair in because that was the next step. They knew within the next week or two they'd be in a wheelchair. And they went through a simple natural MS protocol, you know, to basically get the body cleaned up from that. And in less than 3 months, they were out jogging and running and climbing mountains.
Definitely.
That from wheelchair to that.
Yeah.
And it takes about 3 months. So, you know, you've seen it, I've seen it. When you actually see that something that works and it works continuously, out of all the things that I talked to you about, Joanne, I don't mention any protocols or ways to do things if it doesn't work for at least 75% of everyone.
Well,
So if it only works for 5%, I don't need to mention that on the air because 1 in 20 chance it's going to help you.
Right. So now you've probably got many people's attention, Bert. You've mentioned some scary words, because with Parkinson's, I have a good customer that has really tried to live his life as healthy as possible. And he did go through prostate cancer. So when he came to me with a little bit of the tremor, I did believe that it might have been just a side effect of the chemo he chose. But he just did get diagnosed with Parkinson's. And of course, he doesn't even own a phone. Okay. He's so old school, such a great guy, but he decided with a friend's computer to Google it. And now he's like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, this is some scary stuff. And, you know, if you read the progression of the Parkinson's, it is scary, just like Alzheimer's and dementia and MS. But what my intuition tells me about this very healthy man, he has been painting boats and working on boats his whole entire life. So over 50 years. And
So
even with
if he
his
totally,
best intentions, he's super toxic now. Right. So
yeah, so you're helping him detox, right?
yeah, so that's, well, yep, we're meeting today, and it's funny, and that's why I wanted to talk to you on the show about it, because it's more than just him, all different reasons, but there's definitely the connection with the heavy metals. And so that's why I want to see, you know, in my wellness center, we do have the iron foot detox, the PEMF, the infrared sauna. So I have them use different therapies as well, but it's just, there are some schools of thought, and I'm not well versed enough on when you're trying to draw these heavy metals out, like, are you going to put them in any type of danger when the metals are trying to come out? And so that's where I didn't know super silica, what your clinical experience was with it.
Well, I know every single show, it sounds like I'm a broken record, but if they're not getting enough purified water, if they're not getting up to a gallon. So if somebody says, oh, I'd really like to detox from all of this paint toxins I've had for the last 50 years, you know, of my career. And then they say, but I'm unwilling to drink a gallon of water. I say, well, I can't help you. I just stop. I mean, as much as I like to do, I can't. It's not possible. You can have too many toxins coming out of all the hidden places in the body that'll overwhelm the body if there's not enough water. First of all, if you're not getting enough water, everybody thinks, oh, well, I drink plenty. And the popular study is that, you know, it only is half of your body weight in ounces. And I go, and the popular study was put out by who? And what is their end goal? Do they want you to get better, or they want you to make sure you never get better? They're telling everybody that you don't need much water. But without being able to flush out the poisons, that's where you run into the problem. And that's why super silica is tied directly into water volume, so
Okay.
that anybody can use it. If you follow the directions of 12 drops in 16 ounces or more, and you can always do 12 drops in 30 ounces of water, but a minimum of 16 ounces, if you do that, you will not overwhelm anybody's body in even a serious detox. But
Okay.
they have to have lots of water.
Okay, and I'm the broken record tuber, and some people like want to skip that. Just like when I talk about breath work, it's like, oh, want to go past it that quick. I said, no, this is the most important part of the program. Like, this is what you need to practice first, and then we can get into the other things. So I love that. Okay, so I hope everyone's listening. This is, really, really important. Even though it seems simple, it really is critical for good health. Bert, we have just a couple minutes left. With the cell power, um, you also sell the pH strips. Well, I sell the pH strips that you have. And so if someone really wants a picture inside their body, can you tell us real quick how to use the pH strips?
Yes, you want to test your saliva. That will give you the clear picture of inside your body. You want to make sure that you're not having anything interfere with your saliva test. So it needs to be at least 3 hours after any beverage except for water, and any food, even one raisin or one cranberry or whatever it is. You still have to wait 3 hours after that one thing because it changes the saliva, right? So do it first thing in the morning. So as I told you, our family has been doing this for 18 years, ever since I got pH balanced, is that every Sunday we do it first
I
thing in
know,
the
I'm
morning.
picturing you guys with the 10 kids just lined up like a little army. It's like
What we
awesome.
do.
Hey, how many kids were in Sound of Music? Maybe it's kind of like that. You guys sing those Doe a Deer songs? Bert,
Yeah,
it's always a pleasure having you. I hope you have the most amazing week. Thank you for blessing us on the show today.
it's been so fun. Thank you, Joanne.
All right, bye. All right, everyone, definitely check out the Wellness Center. Remember, I have the coaching special this summer, 200